each individual is a unique burst of creative attention, a creative attention that is not limited to physicality, but is and has its attention on physicality. The unseen is always looking at the seen. It is the seen which is unseen. So, when we look at the words seen and unseen, the word seen we will use as a representative for our physical senses and everything we literally see. Everything we know or can know that exists. Now, we want to understand that the word seen suddenly realizes that there is unseen. The unseen. So there is the word unseen. So visualize the word unseen, and underneath it the word seen. And the unseen is a consideration of the seen of a world that doesn't exist. So in the word unseen, there is the word seen. So what is seen is first, and then there is unseen. Because if there never was the word for seen, it would be nothing. It would not exist. So we understand the limitation of words at this point, and also how their natural presence, like the presence of everything else we see or utilize or feel, and that kind of presence, they have a presence, and it's that's a very interesting look at that. Now, as each human being or each point of existence, it's not even a human being. It could be like the tip of grass, or this ping pong table, or you. So we may see that the seen has conceived an unseen, but if the seen doesn't conceive an unseen, that world never existed. Now, because we have conditioning, we believe the world to be in a certain way. In other words, how do we know it's certain? Because we're comparing it to other things. And we feel better about the system of belief. You see, when people understand that there's so much that they cannot understand all of it through a certain individuated field. So in other words, if a student is saying, I'm going to understand life, but I'm just going to go, learn how to do engineering, for example, that's not enough. You need to pay attention. You need to have the world teach you about it. You need the world literally to teach you. And if you are conditioned to utilize a certain method instead of being a very holistic learner, then you're limiting yourself. It is going back to the seen and unseen moment, where this unseen is the reality created by the word seen. Our experience of ourselves is a view that is transcendent. In other words, it transmutes into novelty, or through novelty. Now, our experience of ourselves is a creative influence where many ideas, many factors, many things we're conscious of are creating us. We are a point of existence in this form with this ability of movement, or with this view of reality, that we're human beings on the planet. However, that system is much more able to be observable by a being who is a point of creative attention that only has its attention on the stuff that it wants to create. In a sense, it has its attention on creation, and therefore creativity is the reviewing or revisiting or reintroduction or replanting of, I want to say, peace. Now, that's it. That's what I feel needs to be communicated. Aside from that, if a couple words could come through, it would be that the human ability is much beyond the idea of a human and anything that surrounds that cloud. A cloud is blocking the sky. A cloud is limiting you, but at the same time, it never needs to. It's a lot of the times people who are just looking at life, you might be just hearing this and you'll be like, all right, I'm looking at life. You may then, you know, try to see what's familiar for you. Similar to if you were randomly in a forest and you saw a friend kind of guiding you or something, you'd be more understandable of the friend. You know what I mean. You'd be comfortable to go there. So you need to understand, because we're beings who want survival, and survival is being expressed as comfort in our generation. People choose the comfortable choice. In other words, make sure your belief system is not just the most conditioned thing that you're comfortable with. Your your belief system is literally a system. Do you understand? It's a way of looking at things, but there are many ways for existence to exist. Now, so what I will get at in a sense is that when we see that we are here, we also perceive what here can mean. And there's infinite potential. There are infinite ways to view this planet, this existence, and each is a creative outpouring into a very collectively, I want to say reproduce, even though that implies something else, reality and holographic projection. When we say holographic, that means the whole system changes. In other words, none of this was here literally when your awareness moves, or when your attention, burst of attention that is you, that is that conscious experimentation, I mean not experimentation but indulgence in life, when that comes to your mind, it's a very interesting state of being. As people around one another, the greatest thing we can communicate, and we always are communicating, is our state of being. So when I'm talking to you on this phone, when there are many people, doing different things, they are communicating their being. They are communicating how they exist. You are also communicating how you exist. Hearing this is that communication. Hearing this in your own way, the way that you're hearing it now, is the communication that you're receiving in this boat of existence, if that can be somehow seen to float. However, now I want to steer this towards the wind, and I want to suggest that you need to be able to communicate who you are and your most natural self. In other words, that self that is completely honest with everyone and himself, is sincere, doesn't want to fucking play the game anymore, and just wants to be the most natural, expressive, and connected expression of existence. In other words, we need to understand that thought, even though it is a foundation for our communication, it is not that much of a strong communication foundation in regards to the potential we have of being able to experience ourselves beyond language, beyond idea. The ideas are simply, okay, I will tell you this. You know how whatever media you're using to listen to this is right in front of you, and you're observing it. When you observe an item or an object, you're more aware of that space, right? So you understand that your awareness gives you a more accurate sense of existential space. Now, when that happens, just a second. When that happens, your frame of mind becomes very open and situated in a very different matter. In other words, you observe space, and if the space is observable, you're not in that space. You're in a space that's obviously more aware than that, if you can observe it. In other words, if you can observe a child and the child doesn't realize you're there, you're more aware. You're not that child. You're a different space of awareness. So now what I want to kind of somehow really shoot for here, because it's an important message to communicate, when you observe your thoughts, you are not your thoughts. When you observe it, you are a space of more awareness than the awareness the thought could have. Do you understand this? You are an observer of existence before you exist in a certain way. Now, to kind of move forward with this, be aware of your space. Try to find what the word space and even time, which you will find these two people, really hanging out with one another. When it's observe space and time, and really see what that means for you. Because how you interpret and how you perceive space and time is how you exist. That is a very important message. Because if you have limited and very conditioned ideas of how space and time and reality works, you have put a blindfold in the greatest place you've been on earth and on existence. See, be aware. It is very important for the generations that are to come to observe what is happening. I mean, it is totally fine, drink, do whatever you like, live your life. But the only thing that is being said here is live your life naturally. If you're naturally guided to drink, if you're at your highest, your happiest and most, I don't want to say ecstatic, because that could imply a lot of things, but I want to say at a very balanced and efficient and very high energy and very vast awareness state of existence, then you don't have to live your life the same way. You know what I mean? If it's as if, like, before you didn't know how to drive a car, now that you know how to drive a car, you're much more, literally the way you experience existence is you're much more comfortable. You know how to drive the car. So expand your awareness to the degree beyond your body, beyond any limiting factor that you can observe. Because when you observe limitation, you're in a limitless state. Because you're above the limitation, and there is no greater, so it's limitless. You know what I mean? So be very open and honest with yourself, and understand that there are greater talents and creativity that could be found if you spend time alone with yourself. Dear listener, dearest listener, if you find yourself very, no, I don't want to say very alone, you just spend time with yourself in nature, in silence, and literally just sit there calmly and acknowledge everything you're uncomfortable with, and acknowledge all these ideas that a person has, or how you see the world. Because trust me, the ideas a person communicates, the words a person communicates, shows the world they see. Because why would they be communicating with those words? Now, as you are aware, and you can experience new definitions. Please understand this. You can experience new definitions. You do not need to think that you're limited to the definitions that were before. Become a new meaning. Nobody knows what life means, because there's always a new meaning. You know what I mean? So the question is some glass thrown in the sand years ago, and it's still there because it's not decomposing. You know what I mean? And we need to be careful of sharp glass. Now, let your creativity find you. And what that means is when you're very honest with yourself and you just remain. You have trust. And I don't want to say trust in something. You are trust. You are, it's in your being. You're not worried. You're not startled. You're just very here, right? And when you're at that state, let your creativity find you. Let your ideas flow in towards you, into your awareness, into your knowing, through a very relaxed and natural state. In other words, if you're at your healthiest peak and you are very calm and you listen to your existence, you will see you will receive more from life, literally. In other words, the ideas do not need to be very heavy ideas like what society and culture promote usually, but ideas that are new. Nothing new. Nobody hates a newborn child. You don't understand? Do you understand? Like, no, be new to yourself in the now and here. Because if you are clinging onto the past, you cannot experience novelty. If you think the past is why you're here, then excitement is on the verge, where you're close to it, but you're not there. There are greater levels of excitement beyond reaction, beyond surprise, and beyond just, thinking. I don't like to use that word thinking because it's making people think that think is a king. You know, every monarch has always looked up and seen more. There is always more and vaster ways of communication beyond language and ideas. But it doesn't mean we should stop using language. It just means we should be aware what our language means. Not a lot of people know where words are coming from. When you become aware of the language you're using, you can see what has affected you. If you literally see why you're using a word, I'm from Canada, so I don't use the word a, but if people used a, I mean, that's more Italian, but, in a Canadian a way, you would see that there's a reason why that word has stuck with you. If you observe the words you used and the language you have, and if you literally sat down and wrote a paragraph about your life and read that paragraph, you would see so much more about yourself. You will literally see the words you're using to communicate yourself. You will see what you perceive yourself to be here. A lot of people don't understand, but sometimes the way you see yourself is not the most accurate definition of you. In other words, you might see yourself as something else, but the way you're being presented, everyone's taking their own, unique interpretation of who you are. You know what I mean? You cannot even know how people will react to something. You can only create, you can only show them what you can react to. You know what I mean? You don't need to show them because you don't need to see in that way. Anyways, let creativity find you. I will leave you with, it was a quote, but I don't remember the exact dictation of the quote, so I'm going to express it this way. When you chase a butterfly, which I did as a kid, you know what I mean? But I did it with much more expertise than, what I saw on TV, little, girls running. I would work at a different angle that would, help, especially if it was windy. Anyways, when I would chase butterflies, I realized that, regardless, when you chase something, it is going at a different flow. You're not at that flow. If you're chasing something, you're not at that speed. That something is much faster than you. If you're chasing, for example, some form of interaction or attraction or some, form of, I guess, how would I say? I don't know how this would communicate this, but, searching for the opposite sex to have a good time. If you're looking for that, you need to, I guess, be aware and, pay attention how the word aware has AW, and if you put an E there, which it isn't aware, but there would be awe. When you're aware, you are in awe, okay? And when I say awe, that is a an excitement that like there's a surprise every minute. You know what I mean? Even though this sounds like, I had a dream, excitement and surprise. Nah, you know what I mean. Anyways, so when you are, in that sense, open and honest and clear and also clear in your definitions, you begin to be more aware of how you're living yourself. If I could say that, of course I could say it, but with how you're living, okay? If you're comfortable with how you're living, to analyze how you're living, you need to be the most aware you can be. To make the best decisions for yourself, you have to see yourself in the best, efficient, and healthiest and most vibrant manner. And then you begin to dance, that understand this form of functioning. Anyways, the creativity will find you. The whole butterfly story was that when you chase a butterfly, you can't catch it. But if you sit down among the flowers and just simply be in the presence of light, you know, a very energetic light such as sunlight, and you know, eventually the butterfly will land on your head, because the butterfly doesn't care. It just flies where it has to. It does not think that much. It does not move towards that amount of limitation as a piece of existence. It doesn't limit itself in that way. It simply flies. It is attracted towards a certain plant, for example, you know. And it's funny because the way that butterfly probably goes towards plants, I mean, a curious question to ask is, why does this existence, such as the butterfly, really go towards plants? I mean, there, of course we know why, but you know, of course we know why, but you know, I'm just saying that level of excitement is really the peak of an explorer at, you know, right now. Anyways, sit down and let, you know, your greatest vision of yourself come to you. You need to be still and aware, and there is always beauty, such as these beautiful chicks, or I don't know why we call them chicks, but you know, beautiful women I'm seeing, you know. Anyways.